Hello, this is Myra Elaine on the Buying Space channel. I'm reading from the Torah. I'm in the book of Exodus in chapter 8. And the Lord said unto Moses, Say unto Aaron, Stretch forth thy hand with thy staff over the streams, over the rivers, and over the ponds, and cause frogs to come up from the land of Egypt. And Aaron stretched out his hand over the waters of Egypt, and the frogs came up and covered the land of Egypt. And the magicians did so with their secret arts and brought up frogs over the land of Egypt. Then did Pharaoh call for Moses and Aaron and said, Entreat the Lord, that they may take away the frogs from me and from my people, and I will let the people go, that they may sacrifice unto the Lord. And Moses said unto Pharaoh, Arrogate thyself glory over me. For what time shall I entreat for thee and for thy servants, for thy people, to destroy the frogs from thee and from thy houses? Only in the river they must remain. And he said, For tomorrow. And he said, Be it according to thy word, in order that thou mayest know that there is none like the Lord our God. And the frogs shall depart from thee, and from thy houses, and from thy servants, and from thy people. Only in the river shall they remain. And Moses and Aaron went out from Pharaoh, and Moses cried to the Lord on account of the frogs which he had inflicted upon Pharaoh. And the Lord did according to the word of Moses, and the frogs died out of the houses, out of the courts, and out of the fields. And they gathered them together in many heaps, and the land became foul. But then Pharaoh saw that there was a relief. He hardened his heart, and hearkened not unto them as the Lord had spoken. And the Lord said to Moses, Say unto Aaron, Stretchest out thy staff, and smite the dust of the earth, and it shall become lice throughout the land of Egypt. And they did so. And Aaron stretched out his hand with his staff, and smote the dust of the earth, and there was lice on man and on beasts, and all the dust of the land had become lice throughout the land of Egypt. And the magicians did so with their secret arts to bring forth the lice, but they could not. So were the lice upon man and upon beast. And then said the magicians to Pharaoh, This is a finger of God. But Pharaoh's heart remained hardened, and he hearkened not unto them as to the Lord had spoken. And the Lord said to Moses, Rise up early in the morning, and place thee before Pharaoh. Lo, he goeth before the water, and say unto him, Thus hath said the Lord, Let thy people go. Let my people go, that they may serve me. For if thou wilt not let my people go, behold, I will send against thee, against thy servants, and against thy people, and into the houses various wild beasts, and the house of the Egyptians shall be full of wild beasts, and also the ground upon they dwell. And I will distinguish on that day of Goshen, in my people abideth, so that no wild beast shall be there. And thou mayest know that I am Lord in the midst of the earth, and I will put distinction between my people and thy people. Tomorrow shall this sign be. And the Lord did so. And there came a grievous multitude of beasts into the house of Pharaoh, and unto the house of his servants, and all the land of Egypt, and the land ruined by reason of wild beasts. And Pharaoh called for Moses and Aaron and said, Go ye sacrifice to the God in the land. And Moses said, It's not proper to do so. For the abomination of the Egyptians must we sacrifice to the Lord our God. Lo, if we should sacrifice the abominations of Egypt before their eyes, would they not stone us? 3 days' journey we will go into the wilderness and sacrifice to the Lord our God, as he may say unto us. And Pharaoh said, I will surely let you go, that ye may sacrifice to the Lord your God in the wilderness. Only do not go very far away. Entreat for me. And Moses said, Behold, I am going out from thee, and I will entreat to the Lord, and the wild beast shall depart from Pharaoh, from his servants, and from his people tomorrow. Only let not Pharaoh deal deceitfully any more, so as not to let people go sacrifice to the Lord. And Moses went out from Pharaoh and entreated to the Lord. And the Lord did according to the word of Moses, and he removed the wild beasts from Pharaoh, from his servants, and from his people. There remained not one. But Pharaoh hardened his heart at this time also, and he did not let the people go. Sounds like dealing with a child. You give them punishment, and when you are putting them in timeout or taking away their phone or doing whatever you do as a parent to give negative reinforcement to your children, but the moment you stop, the grounding has ended, and then they go out the door again and they do the same thing because the punishment is over. Pharaoh did this over and over. I wanted to reiterate what I did last time about the plagues and how this not only showed Pharaoh and the Egyptians that Yahweh was a powerful God. As a matter of fact, in this chapter, it says, as far as the lice, his sorcerers and magicians were not able to imitate this. Also, the god of Set was the god of the desert. And they were taking, Moses and Aaron were taking, Yahweh was taking the sand, the dirt, and turning it into lice. And Set was powerless to prevent that. And another thing about the Egyptians, they worshiped daily to their deities. And they had huge, beautiful temples set up. And what would happen was they would face those temples towards the east. And when the sun rose, the sunlight would go down a chamber or a hallway to a golden object, probably a statue of Set or any of the other deities they had temples for at that time. And that statue would be of gold or crystal or something bright that would just emanate the light through the entire chamber. And their priests had standards of purification too, just like the Hebrews did. When you read in Leviticus and Numbers and Deuteronomy, you see all those laws that priests followed as far as purification, about being clean versus unclean. And the priests of Set and the other deities would shave their bodies like every other day, so lice and other creatures, other parasites would not be on them. They were not just being clean freaks. They were wanting to be as pure as they could be for their God. So Yahweh had not only insulted Set, he had made it impossible for the priest to lead worship and to make sacrifices, because their laws, their rules were they had to be clean. And if their bodies were infested with lice, or the priests of any of the Egyptian deities were unclean, they couldn't perform their duties. So the priests were unable. And this would shut down Egyptian society. And the rivers and ponds turning to blood killed all the fish. And the frogs being everywhere not only insulted Horus and Isis and Hektat and now Set. The dead fish interfered with commerce. And the frogs being everywhere shut down commerce. And now, not only the commercial commerce, but the priests were unable to do their duties because they were unclean. So these plagues were not only to let the people go, they were to show God's power, especially over the cult of the Egyptian deities. God, Yahweh, was making a mockery of the Egyptian deities. Yahweh is the only one true and living God. And we have people today that worship Baal. And I met a woman a month ago that channels Isis, who is the deity of the Nile River. And God has shown power Yahweh has shown power over her. I was very tempted to talk to Isis through this woman who channels Isis. I decided not to. But I would ask her if I was able to talk to her about the 10 plagues. I would think that would be a very interesting reading, because I wouldn't be waiting for wisdom from Isis. And I wouldn't go to a psychic who's channeling anything, even my own ancestors, even my own late family members. You're playing with fire. But if I did get a reading, and this woman was channeling Isis, and that's what she said, I wouldn't be waiting for wisdom from her. I would be telling her about the power of Yahweh. And I would be bringing up the plagues. Just saying, that's what I would say to Isis. You have no power over Yahweh. You didn't then, and you don't now. So that's what I would say. That was tempting, but I chose not to do that. I know where to find that woman if I ever want to do that. Put Isis in the chat if you would want me to do that. You all have a wonderful and blessed day.